The inevitable has finally arrived. The legendary Unkillable King of Iran's supreme leadership, Ali Khamenei, a man who survived countless assassination attempts throughout his life, has finally fallen in a targeted strike. On March 1, local time, the Iranian Fars news agency, citing sources close to the office of the supreme leader, reported that Khamenei, along with 4 relatives including his daughter and son-in-law, has perished. Prior to this, although Israel and the United States claimed through various channels that Khamenei was gone, Iran had been denying his death, insisting he was still calmly and resolutely commanding the battlefield. However, with Iran officially declaring 40 days of national mourning, it is clear that Khamenei has indeed died in the line of duty. One could say that now, he is truly calm and undisturbed and can continue his commanding from the beyond. I won't dwell today on how Iranian security has become a leaking sieve. If anyone is to blame, it's that Iranian official who told Reuters yesterday that Khamenei had been moved and wasn't even in the Tehran bombing zone. By trying to sound tough, you've essentially talked your leader to death. Upon hearing the news, the US and Israel showed no signs of stopping. The White House suspended all presidential travel and photo ops, and His Majesty Trump himself suggested strikes could continue for a week or longer. Currently, the Strait of Hormuz is completely blocked, with shipping speeds dropping to zero. A massive shift in the Middle East and the world is right before our eyes. With this US decapitation operation, a major question surfaces: who will inherit Khamenei's mantle? How will the pro-American and anti-American factions within Iran clash? Is the Middle East doomed to a state of perpetual war? Today, let's discuss the impact of Khamenei's death on the Iranian situation. First, a brief look at his life. Born in April 1939 in the holy city of Mashhad to a religious family, he was the second of 8 siblings. He began studying the Quran at age 4 and later studied advanced theology in Qom, where he met his lifelong mentor, Ruhollah Khomeini. He was arrested 6 times for spreading Khomeini's ideas. In his youth, he was a true warrior. After the 1979 revolution, he held key posts as acting defense minister and commander of the IRGC. He literally forged his path through fire. In 1981, an assassination attempt nearly succeeded, leaving his right arm permanently paralyzed. He served as president before becoming supreme leader in 1989, 15 years before the current White House communications director was even born. The point is, the man truly survived a staggering number of attempts. Calling him a legendary survivor isn't an exaggeration. But in war, they can fail many times, while you only have to fail once. To be taken out by a sneak attack in his sunset years was perhaps expected. At his age, he was already in power-saving mode, barely able to walk. His presence was largely symbolic. However, as threats increased, Khamenei did leave a contingency plan by designating successors, including his second son Mojtaba, and high-ranking members of the Assembly of Experts like Hashim Hosseini Boushari and Ali Reza Arafai. In January, he even appointed former IRGC commander Larijani to a central role to devise combat readiness plans. Khamenei was prepared for a long struggle with the US and Israel. But here is the problem: if you designate a successor, won't the US and Israel just assassinate them next? To counter this, Khamenei designed a system where every government and military position has up to 4 layers of successors. If one falls, the next in line steps up immediately. It's like the Hydra: cut off one head, and more grow back. History shows that no country has ever collapsed solely due to assassinations. You can't assassinate 90 million people. For that, you'd need a ground invasion. Currently, Iran is being led by a temporary council of the president, the chief justice, and a jurist. But old man Trump clearly has other ideas, implying he already has a suitable leader in mind for Iran. Honestly, I couldn't help but laugh. Is he planning to lead Iran himself, or send a governor there? Perhaps it's Marco Rubio, whom I know well from my time at the White House. Being the governor of both Venezuela and Iran would be quite the workload for him. Turning to the aggressors, have the US and Israel achieved their goals? For the US, I think they've done enough. The Iran threat narrative coming from Trump was always a bit ironic, but now, with Khamenei dead, Trump can claim a huge win for his domestic audience. Without congressional authorization, he couldn't sustain a long campaign anyway, but since he managed to kill Khamenei in just a few strikes, Congress won't find much to criticize. Arresting Maduro in January and decapitating Khamenei in February, Trump is winning big every month. If you're a redneck supporter, you can't even imagine how happy you are. It's exactly as Trump once said, "Please, Mr. President, don't win so much, we can't take it anymore." The US could stop here, but the worry is Trump getting overconfident after ignoring international law for 2 months straight. If he does something truly reckless, it will be hard to handle. Israel, on the other hand, is a different story. Will killing Khamenei really help Netanyahu? Not necessarily. Israel's core demand isn't just a win for show, they want to crush all anti-Israel forces in the region. Iran will certainly retaliate. While their ability to strike the US is limited, their hatred for Israel will only grow. Iran has promised the most violent offensive in history. Where can they strike? US carriers can sail away, and losing some overseas bases isn't a fatal blow to America. But Israel is tiny, and the pressure there will be immense. Now, it's Israel that can't afford to make a single mistake. For Netanyahu, he can't stop now. A living Khamenei might have been a vacillating figure, but a dead Khamenei is a martyr and a symbol of unwavering resistance. Israel's goal must be to seize Iranian power and force a structural change, weakening religious influence and installing a Western-style liberal democracy run by proxies. Or, they must continue assassinating every capable IRGC general until the country fractures. But this requires US cooperation, and Trump's time is limited. Once Congress returns on Monday, authorization for further strikes is unlikely. If Iran is totally destabilized, the chaos will threaten the petrodollar. In short, this joint strike is like the Venezuela operation, tactically successful, but strategically hollow. The US thinks it can strike and leave Iran to rot, but that is wishful thinking. If someone stabilizes the situation, whether by inheriting the old regime or forming a new one, the US will face an even more determined enemy in the Middle East who will seek to dig the grave of American hegemony. From Iran's current reaction, they seem more resolute than ever. Whether this is emotional or a new generation of IRGC leaders taking charge remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, the US has no plan B. They might hit and run, hoping Iran collapses in a few years, but as they say, let the bullets fly for a while. To destroy a nation of 90 million people, bombing an 80-year-old man is simply not enough.